band just in case they might play. Talking down about me, ooh, make it feel disgusting. Dreadlock inside the well, life can get tangled. Mike the money. Mike the money. Mike the money. I'm making money, Mike the.
You're now tuned in to the Mic'd Up Money Radio Show, where faith meets finance and real talk fuels your comeback. This isn't hype, it's healing. This isn't theory, it's transformation. If you're building a brand, a vision, or trying to get back on your feet, this show is your reset button. Welcome to the table where entrepreneurs talk money with clarity, courage, and conviction. Let's get mic'd up.
This podcast or broadcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, health, tax, or professional advice. Always consult a licensed professional for specific advice related to your situation. Thank you. Hello, this is Ephraim Simmons from Mic'd Up Money. Today's conversation is sharing a dream, turning talent, business, and vision into opportunity. Our guest is Michael Anderson, also known as Mike A., a man whose journey reflects what happens when creativity, discipline, and ownership come together. We're talking about musicianship, entrepreneurship, and the moment a dream becomes bigger than just one lane. All right. How you doing, Michael?
Good.
Tell us first about your journey as a musician.
Okay. That started in probably, I guess, junior high school. I've always liked music though, but junior high school, I just the guitar more. And then I went to a segregated school. So, and there was a lot of, I heard all kind of music there. I heard rock and roll. I wasn't exposed to that at first, but I got exposed to it. So I got to hear a lot of rock, which has a lot of guitars in it. So I just started gravitating towards guitar. When I was in junior high school, I actually played the trumpet in the band. Even in high school, it just kind of went from one thing to the next. I was in a local band for years. These guys, we all went to high school together. Most of us went to the same high school. And when we graduated, we just started playing playing for fraternities and parties and playing at clubs. And, we did that for years. I think I played my first club when I was like, 15, 16 years old. I was really young. I wasn't supposed to be in there. They had us hide out. Once we played, we'd have to go hide behind the speakers, and we're not supposed to be in the club at all. And our parents didn't know we did it either, but that's what we did. From there, just one thing that I started playing with the local band. My first major, I guess, gig you call was with the Barcades. I started with them in 1992. I did that for years. Then in 2001, Carter Wilson, and I did that for 22 years. And now I'm back with Larry Dodson, lead singer of the Barcades, as a solo group. So I'm sure I'm just kind of summing it up, but there's a lot in between. You can imagine all those many years I've been doing this, but yeah, that's it.
So from what I understand, since you were a child, you always wanted to be a musician.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so wanting to be a musician, I know sometimes they say unless you're the superstar, it doesn't pay the bills. How did that lead you into owning your own business?
I really just wanted to be a musician. The entrepreneurship part came in because I got a job. It was a problem for me being off on weekends. You know what I mean? I was supposed to work on the weekends. Had to, when you were I was with a major artist with the Barcade, so we play on the weekends a lot. We might leave Friday, be gone till Monday or whatever. So I had to miss those days, and that was becoming a problem. So the idea was if I could get my own business, and I wouldn't have these problems because I own my business, I can come and go as I please. And that's where the idea of me owning my own pawn shop came from. And the pawn shop was the thing I gravitated to because that's the only other thing I knew other than music. I learned the pawn business from working at Cash America. So
okay, so how many years did you work for Cash America?
Cash America, I did like 10 and a half years there.
Okay, so that's long enough to know all the systems and the things. So did it take you a long time to get the initial investment to open up a pawn shop, or were you saving along, or was that your big dream all the time when you worked at Cash America?
No, that's just a dream I came up in the midst of working there. Like I said, I realized that being a musician working for somebody else was going to be a problem because they didn't like the idea of me being gone on weekends. In that business, they felt like the weekend was like the most important days because a lot of people shopped on Saturdays and Friday when they got paid. So for me to be gone those days was an issue. And so that was the reason I decided why I needed to get my own business, and that would alleviate that problem for me. But yeah, Cash America taught me the business because I didn't know nothing about the pawn business. I'd only been on a pawn shop, I think, one time before I actually started working there. That was the Bound Road case for the local band I was in. called the Squares back then. That's the name of them. We called the Squares. We were not just local though. We actually had two major record deals. I'm saying it like we didn't have any success. We had plenty of success as well. One of our songs charted as high as I think 32 on the charts at one point. So we were with Polygram at one point. We were with Atlantic Records, another one, and another deal with Cotillion Records.
Did music teach you anything about business before you had a chance to get started, or do you think that the business taught you more about music?
I think music, no, business is just an extension of music to me. And that, as a musician, you have to do on a certain level. You can't make mistakes. You have to follow what you have to play. You have to play. You have to play. You can't mess it up. You can't make mistakes. You have to follow that regimen. Whatever that song is the way the song goes. Whatever you do, if you follow the lead singer, you have to do that. Well, business is the same thing. You got to follow what needs to be done. You can't just say, well, I'm not going to do it today. I don't feel like doing it today. I'm going to mess up today. I'm going to do something that's not beneficial to the business day. You can't really have those days. And that's just how I am. I'm built that way. If I see a problem with something not going right, it's not going to go away. It's going to always bother me until I get it right. So business is the same as being a musician. You got to always play it right. You got to always do business right.
So I know a lot of people talk about having systems and processes, and that's how you really build a strong business. What you're really saying is by being a musician and happen to play the song correctly all the time, it made you rely mostly and understand the strength of systems and processes. Okay, so I know that in music, you have to have the it factor. You have to have some type of charisma. Does that help you in your business?
The it factor for me in business is like just making sure you're consistent, making sure you always try to do the right thing. That's the it factor in business. If you don't have that, then you're probably going to suffer. For instance, Chick-fil-A, the fact that Chick-fil-A is always the same everywhere you go. From customer service to the food, it doesn't change. Businesses tend to, not do that. And when you have those fluctuations, then you tend to have problems. That's how I feel.
Okay, so what separates a gifted musician from a lasting one?
A lasting one?
Yeah, because some people we see them all the time. They're really good people. They got nice songs, but their careers don't last. I know, and they call them one-hit wonders sometimes, but they never can have a lasting career. I know since you've been around music so long, have you found some things that make people one-hit wonders, or is it just they was just at the right time and right place with the right sound?
All the time is the right time and right place with the right sound. But you're a one-hit wonder because you let yourself be that, in my opinion, because you have to keep working at it. For instance, like Prince, I've heard people say Prince got thousands of songs. You don't just do a few songs and then is that. If you keep doing it, it's just a numbers game. You're probably going to come up with something that somebody like, especially if you're trying to come up with something that people like, or if you're just being yourself. And there's some people who like who you are. You're not by yourself. Whatever you like, somebody else will like it as well. You just got to get to those people. And like I said, one hit wonder guy. I think most of them they probably give up. It didn't work. They got a big hit, then it didn't work. The next song didn't work so well for them. Then the next song they stop. Most of the people who keep making music and making it happen keep putting music out. They keep doing it. They keep trying. They keep trying different things. But the one thing you gotta do is not give up. Keep doing it. To me, that's what separates a one-hit wonder from a person who succeeds and you still hear them 10, 15 years later.
I was listening to a clip from Terry Lewis and Jimmy Jam, and they were, they're elite producers. And they were saying that sometimes when they're listening to music or creating music, they think that something would take off and it does not. And then something they just minimize really was a massive hit. And so it seems like you can almost never tell what's going to hit and what's not going to hit. Sometimes they say, well, this is going to be big and you can understand it's going to be a good jam. But then, but it's a lot of, I guess, what's happening at that particular time. But I know when Prince was making music, he was more on the emotional side of it. He wanted to capture the feeling in the moment, even if there were mistakes in that take that he made. Is it something about music that you have recognized that makes things hit and make things massive and make things transcend from one generation to the next generation?
Continuity definitely helps because I can think about me, for instance, like in the band I was in. Like I said, we had two major record deals. Both albums that we put out, both of them. The last song that we created was the single, the one we put together when we got there. So we would do songs, for instance. We know we got a record deal. We're going to New York. We did the second album in Oklahoma. So we had the whole album done basically before we got there. We know the music. When we got there, the second album, Charlie Wilson produced. But he wanted to create a song with us. We created one song. That song was a single. When we went to New York on Atlantic record, the song we created in New York was the single. I mean, it's just that's how it goes for some reason. I don't know. I remember hearing Marvin Sapp speak, for instance, he said the song he almost didn't put on Dramatica was the actually biggest song he'll ever have in his life. Never would have made it. It was a question, would he even put that on his album? But that's like one of the biggest songs he'll ever have. It's just, I think you have to be, and people have to feel what you're doing. I mean, I learned that from going around the barcades when I was young. You have to feel what you're doing. You have to put your emotions, your feelings into what you're doing to make people feel what you're doing. If you don't feel it, they won't feel it. That's something that Alan Jones from the barcades taught me when I was young. You have to feel it when you're doing it to make people feel it. And Prince was one of the masters of doing that. Michael Jackson. The people who've been around for a long time are masters at doing that, making you feel what they're feeling or what they're trying to evoke.
So how does that translate into business? Do the customer need to resonate with you to be good customers or to be repeat customers? Is there something you have to do to keep making these people come back?
You have to, it's like this music, you got to give them what they want, basically what they want. I mean, what they want, in the fun is, I think, for you to be fair with them. That's pretty much it. Just be fair with them, be nice, have good customer service. All that's important. And you can't really wave on those things because you lose customers if you do. So it's kind of almost the same thing in my opinion. You gotta, and so you gotta give them what they want. Just like in music, you gotta give them what they want. A lot of times musicians get caught up in doing what they want, and that's why you just not still you're not really thinking about the audience you're trying to reach. You just thinking about what you want to do. You're not trying to reach you want to reach them, but you're not trying to reach them because really to reach them you need to do certain things, but you're not doing that. You're just doing what you want to do.
Well, on the other side of that, there are some people who do things because they know it'll be commercially successful. But even though the song may not have the substance or, I guess, the musicianship that it needs, but they know that people will buy it. I guess they call those the summer anthems, or they call them manufactured hit. What do you think about those things?
I mean, to me, it depends on what you're in the music for. If you're in the music to sell records, then you have to try to appeal to the people you're selling records to. That's it. And the music, social music is not based on the best player, the best singer. That's not what it's based on. It's based on who can reach the people you're trying to reach. Who's better at doing that? If you naturally got it to reach them, then you can just do what you do naturally. But some people have to try and reach them, and you have to stay focused on that. And if you don't, you won't. You won't make it. That's what it comes down to. You got to stay focused on what you want to do if you're going to do it. Like I said, it's not a singing contest. It's not that. It's about giving the people what they want. And actually, the simpler things tend to work because things that are too complex for people, they tend to just, forget about it. You'll hear a song over and over, and you tend to start singing it if it's simple. But if it's real complex, say some jazz singer singing a song with a whole bunch of notes in it, you can't sing that. You're not even gonna try to sing it. You're not even gonna remember it first of all because it's too many notes to remember. You didn't capture. So the simpler, the better when it comes to commercial music. I mean, commercial music and superior musicianship to me are not necessarily the same thing. It's just not.
So I guess translating that back into business, when they keep saying keep it simple, and they say keep it simple, stupid, because a lot of times people, I guess, they get complicated on how they do offers. They miss the main picture. Because like I told people all the time, like we talked about Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is not the best chicken sandwich out there, but it's one of the most consistent brands out there. Regardless of where you go, you're going to get your order. It's usually going to be correct, and it's usually going to be the same quality that you want.
Okay.
Yes, and that's just a simple offering. I give you a good chicken sandwich, and it's going to be consistent. And I guess in business, a lot of times people, they may run their business by their feelings. And one day everything is good, everybody's moving. Then the next day, if they feel a certain kind of way, maybe they got a little attitude that day, things may be a little off. So what do you think about that?
Can't really have off days. I mean, your personal feeling should not seep out in your business and how you deal with customers. I mean, that's just not one the same. For me, if you ever seen me on stage with Charlie and people like that, my customers all would be surprised. They're all usually surprised when they see me on stage because they say I don't act nothing like I am when I'm in the phone business because I'm real laid back or really quiet. But when I'm on stage, my job is to entertain and to perform. So that's what I'm doing. So it's the same in the porn business. Whatever that I need to do for my customers is what I'm going to do. That's how I look at it. I'm looking at like if I'm not feeling good and I got to play a show, I can't go on stage act like I'm not feeling good. I got to put that behind me. I got a cold. I still got to go out there and perform. I got to run around. Still got to sing. I still got to play. All that still has to happen. I still got to smile. So, and the pawn is the same way. You can't because you don't feel good. You can't. Then you can talk about it a little more, but you can't go out there just being because you're down and out and drag your customers down. That it's not a good experience for them. They, they might not want to come back. So this is how I look at the two things together. They're similar to me.
So when do you realize a dream needs structure or it would stay a wish?
Oh, I mean, from day one, I realized that. I mean, I had my things when I opened that shop. There were things I said that I wanted to make sure that we keep these things in order. For instance, I never wanted to overprice them. I get on my employees who are overpricing something just as fast as I would get onto them for underpricing. Probably more overpricing, honestly, because that means a lot to me because that's something that can turn customers off. So I don't want to do that. I don't believe in trying to just get something from customers for free. I mean, if you come upon an item, try to be fair with you on what I give you for it. I'm not trying to take your item that you didn't work hard for, so I can take it and sell and make a lot of money. No, that's not even how it works. Actually, just so people know, the pawn business make most of the money from interest, not from selling items. That's all pawn shops. Most people don't know that. They think it's from selling.
What did business teach you that talent alone never could?
I guess I'm not really a talented salesperson. So, but you got to be consistent in what you do and be fair. That's what business teaches me. Be consistent, be fair, and you'll be fine there. Because that's me. I'm like, well, I'm not a super salesperson. I've had some working at Cash America. I've seen some super salespeople from being there. Actually, I've had some people to work from there with super salespeople. I'm not one of those people though. But as long as you still keep the same principles in place and make sure you're out to satisfy your customers. Now you can't always do what every customer asks you, but you can be fair with all of them. Most people respect the fact that you're fair with them. So you don't have to be the most talented person, a salesperson, because you got some people you're selling to. You're gonna sell an item more than likely as you get as long as the prices are right and consistent. So, but the talented salespeople, they do better. I mean, I'm not gonna say they don't, but that's my take on that.
So is the customer always right?
It's hard to say that because you always gonna get somebody who'll try to take advantage of that statement, and ask you something ridiculous that you can't do. So they can't always be right. Not in the business I'm in, especially when you're dealing with money as we are. You can't always do that because somebody can ask you for anything, and you can't say, well, that's right because they asked you for $1 million. I don't have $1 million. Give them first of all, so they can't be right. I'm gonna say you should give me this for that because that's their opinion. So I can't say that a customer's always right, but I always try to treat them, as right as I can.
So at this point, do you prefer being a musician more than being an entrepreneur? Or you think that both of them have an equal place in your life?
Both have an equal place in my life, but I definitely enjoy being a musician. I'm a musician at heart. That's what I've been doing since I was a child. So that's what I gravitated to. I said the business thing only came about because it allowed me to be able to play music. That's where the whole idea even came from, to have a business. But now I do enjoy business.
Okay. So tell me about your 5 songs that you like the most, or your 5 songs that your audience loves the most.
I guess the one I think you put on your show, the best I ever had, that's probably my favorite. I did a gospel song, my gospel guy CD that I sung. I'm thinking I can think of songs that I've actually sung or whatever form. He's been good to me. That's on the Dynasty 901 CD. I like that song. So that I on my first CD that I put out. There's a song that I call Clear the Air. It's one of my favorites. I tend to gravitate to ballads, which is really probably weird for a guy who plays guitar and all that, but I like slow songs and ballads probably more than I do up tempos, which is weird. Let's see what it's sound like. I got some songs it's hard to say because I haven't put all my music. I still have songs I've done that I probably got 2 more that I haven't put out yet. So I think I'm sending to you. I'm going to send them to you so you have them. But I'll just say those people now because those are available for you to hear if somebody wants to hear those.
Okay. So do you use any of your creativity in there?
I used to do more, but not as much now as I used to. I guess because we've been running along for so long, it kind of at a pace that it sustains itself and have to pay the bills. So I kind of leave it as it is. But still, sometimes we come up with things I'll implement to spice it up. More when I started just to try to get business going and keep it going. It was more of that then.
We had previous episodes, and I'll be telling my co-host about internal theft. And they be talking about just physical theft, how people come in and steal from you. I said, no, it's the people who work for you and they steal from you and who steal time and who steal money and resources. So What can you say about eternal theft? Because I know with a pawn shop, you got a whole lot of temptation. You got the money part, you got the merchandise part, you got a lot of stuff that people might be tempted to steal. So,
Yeah,
what kind of systems
yeah,
and processes do you have to stop that from happening?
it's an ever revolving thing to control it because people always, I don't have a lot of that now, but over the years, I'm not employee number 44, I think. So I've had 44 employees since I've been there, or 43 because I'm number one. So people are always trying to come up with ways to steal, but I haven't had a lot of that for me. 'Cause a lot of people I hire, usually people I know or family, so I don't have haven't done a lot of, but there are a lot of balances and checks that you have in place that Cash America even taught me because cash mergers and corporations, they had to have a lot of checks and balances to make sure people didn't steal from them. So a lot of those things I learned from them, I brought over to my shop. You have to do inventories. You have to, we count the jewelry every night to make sure no jewelry's missing. You count what was sold and you count. I mean, you started with, and that's what you should have at the end of the day. That happens every day and every night, every morning, every jewelry's count. Money wise, of course, you count that every night, so you know what that is. You do inventory to make sure that everything was run through the system. And if it wasn't run through the system and you don't have it in the shop, that means somebody did something with it. Some kind of way it left the store and it wasn't paid for. So you figure it out. But there are checks and balances to it all. Just you have to just learn, and I've learned most of that from Cash Flow before I even started. So I still take those things and use those tools to this day.
Yeah, because know that a lot of times people, when they start a business, I tell them one of the first things you have to do is know how to get your cash, know how to keep your cash, and know how to protect your cash. That's one of the first systems that you should have. And I think that a lot of times people are too trusting. But I know there are some things you teach people so they can understand how you keep up with your money. But then there's some things you keep under, but close to the chest. So, because you don't want them to know that, because if they know that, they might be able to manipulate the system. Because I know
Yeah.
some people say that I got cameras, but cameras are not enough because people know how to manipulate cameras. Well, I count the cash. Well, if they don't put it in the system, you can't count that cash. So you always have to have backup systems to stop people from stealing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the way doing inventory. When I say inventory, that means you go through and you scan everything that you have in that shop. And then you compare it to what the computer say you should have. And if you're missing things, you have to figure out what happened to those things. Why were these things not run through our system as being sold or put in layaway? And there you go. Then you got to track it down.
Yeah.
That's how you know if somebody's in doing something they shouldn't do. But that's the best way, the easiest way, I guess. Most consistent way, anyway.
Yeah, you have to also have one for service too, because I know a lot of people that may have trucks. They let the trucks out to people, but then the trucks come up with extra mileage and supplies come up short because they're taking your stuff and they're making money on the side. Sometimes you might know a little that's going to happen, but when it get to be crazy, you be saying like, "Now you're doing too much."
But most for me, most of my business, all my business happens inside of my walls, so I don't have to deal with external things like that. So I don't know. I don't know about a lot of that. But yeah, most of my stuff is inside my four walls. So I don't have those issues.
We were talking, you were saying that you first started out in like Super D's, but then somebody said that you had too much talent really to be at
Oh,
Super
yeah,
D.
yeah. That's how I got into the pawn business. So I started working. I was a musician, and then we were playing parties and clubs and sororities and fraternities and da 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 da. And then at some point, that started to slow down. So I just got me a job at Super D, making minimum wage. That was my first real job. Well, the lady that worked there, I was just a clerk there. She was a clerk as well, but she was older than me. She said, "You take this job too seriously to just be working here for minimum wage. If you want, my husband will hire you if you want to do that." And he worked at Cash America at the time. He was a manager at Cash America. And I resisted that for a while, I don't know, a month or two or whatever it was. I just didn't know a lot about the pawn business, just, maybe the negative stigma. I just didn't do it. And finally, I just did. I just went and I said, let me just go see what it's about. And he hired me on the spot like you said he would. And that started my journey with Cash America. And from there, and even from that, I mean, I was just a salesperson. And they would ask me certain things like, why you line this up like this? Why you clean this like this? Because they weren't used to people just doing on their own, nobody tell them. That's just how I look at things. You're going to put it out, you should make it look neat. That's just me. But from that, they made me a assistant manager. Then from that, they offered me, I never really asked for to be promoted. They promoted me.
So I know one of the biggest things that stop people from on their own business is capital. So when you started your pawn business, how did you raise the initial capital? to get started?
I didn't really raise any capital. Just I wanted to do it, and then when I got my pawn license, they made it easy because you had to have what was it 70? I think it was $70,000 in assets for the business. Well, so that they didn't interpret it as being cash. I could use items, so that's what I did. I used stuff that I own to equal up to the amount to get the license. And then from there, just trying to figure it out using credit cards. I got a second mortgage on my house. That's how I funded it from credit card, second mortgage on my house. And then I was a musician, so I would make money playing music and come back and put it into the shop. I was paying my employees with the money I would make from playing to get it rolling. Those are really the three things I funded it, like credit cards and second mortgage on my house. And like I said, I was making money as a musician and coming back taking care of business at the shop. Nobody, no, I didn't have any other backers. One of my friends who have another pawn shop, he helped me probably the most of anybody in that he let me get jewelry that I could sell and just pay him for it later. So when I opened the doors, I had jewelry already because he has so much, he let me sell some and I just pay him back over time for it. That was a big help to me. I opened with stock already. And he had another pawn shop he was closing. And so I bought merchandise in that store to have stuff so I had merchandise when I opened the doors. That's how I funded it.
So, what advice would you give to a young person that want to be an artist, that want to be a musician, want to be a rapper, about how to really live out their passion, but also have some solid foundations to be able to live off? Because I know being a musician, sometimes you're in demand and sometimes you're on a break. And so you have to have consistent money to pay bills. So what would you recommend for those people?
I mean, I guess probably, me, the path I took works fine for me. You start your own business and then you have, hopefully you have time to focus on what you love, which is music. And, you have to be disciplined when you're making money. You can't just blow through it because you might get a lot of money, lump sum here, because your bills are going to be consistent. They're going to come every month. So, you have to have that in mind when you're making money. And then when you're trying to make it, I always think you have to, like I told you earlier, you have to keep doing music. You have to do music. You can't just talk about it. You can't do 10 songs in a year or 2 years and think that's enough. Like, I think you have to keep writing and keep creating. It's a numbers game. I mean, like you see Prince. I use Prince when think talking sometimes because I could think he put out an album one time. He had 20 some songs or whatever. It was a double album, but only two hits out there, maybe three hit, maybe right? So I mean, it's not like that's just to me. You have to be consistent with that and constantly creating music and putting it out. I hear people talk about Tupac back in the day, like he lived in the studio, just always doing music, always recording. And a lot of people who make it are like that. R. Kelly like that, was like that. I always did music, always doing music. That would be my advice. Some of it, if I sum it all up. Make some consistent money, and so you can follow your dream. Because there are a lot of people trying to do music a lot.
So what advice do you give to aspiring business owners?
Oh, just try to be consistent in what you do and I mean, to me, you got it's a business model now. Chick-fil-A is the business model to show everybody what you need to strive for. Consistency, good customer service, those two things are real important. Be consistent with and good customer service and have a good product that you're selling and make sure that product is up to par and consistent.
Okay, so what legacy do you want to leave through both what you have built and what you have performed?
To that, I mean, I guess I'm building a legacy in that I'm a business owner. I like to be thought of as a person who tried to do business the right way, who tried to do music the right way. And when I say the right way, what was required of me. Like as a musician, I usually just do what's required of me. If that means, going above and beyond a certain thing, I'm gonna do that because that's what whoever I'm playing for or my audience requires of me. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, before we leave this episode, tell us how they can find your music and tell us how they can patronize your business.
Yeah, my business is Best Fun on Jackson Avenue, 02 Jackson Avenue, in the Gateway Shopping Center, like North Memphis area. They're Monday through Saturday, 9 to 5. So whenever you're that way or looking to make a pun or want to buy some things, that would be the spot, hopefully for you. Do a lot of musical stuff there and jewelry. So a lot of people call my shop the music shop of the pawn shop because I have a lot of musical stuff there because I'm a musician. So there you go. Music, it's on most of my music that I have is on YouTube and Apple Music. in YouTube. So you just look on My Gay and the song, and you should be able to find it.
Okay. Well, this is Ephraim on the Business Strategies for Mic'd Up Money. This has been our episode with Michael Anderson, sharing a dream, turning talent, business, and vision into opportunity. If there is one lesson here, it's that talent is powerful, but talent with vision and structure creates opportunity. Keep building, keep growing, and keep turning your dream into something real. Again, signing out, Ephraim Simmons, Mic'd Up Money.
That's a wrap for this week on Mic'd Up Money. Don't forget to grab your free tools at mic'dupmoney.com. Follow us at Mic'd Up Money on all social platforms and keep taking your next right money move. Until next time, stay reset, stay ready, and stay mic'd up.